Admiral Voxthal's crystalline display illuminated his scaled features as he reviewed the final data streams from Earth. The military assessment wing of the Galactic Council stretched around him in concentric rings of gleaming metal and pulsing light, a testament to the advanced civilization that had watched over the galaxy for millennia. Yet something about these humans troubled him. "Play the orbital surveillance again," he commanded, his synthetic translator converting the clicks and whistles of his native tongue into standardized galactic common. The holographic display shimmered, showing Earth's orbital space stations, primitive constructions of metal and glass that barely qualified as spaceworthy by Council standards. Dr. Jessica Anderson stood in the observation gallery above, her pressed blue uniform bearing the simple insignia of Earth's United Defense Force. Her presence was a courtesy, nothing more. After all, it was standard protocol to allow representatives of assessed species to observe their own evaluation. The fact that she hadn't objected to a single conclusion so far was exactly what one would expect from a Category 3 civilization. Their primary defensive satellites still rely on chemical propulsion, Lieutenant Kexry reported, her tendrils waving in what passed for enthusiasm among her species, and their most advanced weapon systems utilize crude nuclear fission, hardly worth noting in the threat assessment. Voxthal's inner eyelid flickered, a sign of uncertainty among his kind. And their ground forces. The display shifted, showing massive formations of Earth's military vehicles, tanks crawling across desert sands, ships cutting through ocean waves, aircraft soaring through clouds, all of them burning primitive fossil fuels, or at best, utilizing basic nuclear power. Their largest military power, the United States, maintains approximately 11 carrier groups, Kexry continued. The vessels are surface-bound and vulnerable to even basic energy weapons. Their ground forces rely heavily on kinetic projectile weapons. From her position above, Dr. Anderson maintained her pleasant, diplomatic smile. If anyone had been watching closely, they might have noticed how her eyes tracked every detail the Council's systems failed to detect. What about their space combat capabilities? Voxthal pressed, unable to shake his nameless concern. Minimal, Commander Zixtal interjected, pulling up new data streams. They've barely established a permanent presence on their moon and have a small research outpost on Mars. Their most advanced spacecraft require chemical rockets to achieve orbit. No sign of quantum drives, no gravitic manipulation, not even basic shield technology. The assessment chamber filled with other Council military experts, their varied forms representing dozens of species. They watched the footage of Earth's military parades with barely concealed amusement. Here was a species that still celebrated the ability to roll vehicles down paved streets, who thought formations of atmospheric aircraft were impressive displays of power. Their total military spending, Voxthal asked. Approximately $800 billion of their dollars annually from their largest military power, Kexry answered. They consider this a substantial investment. Laughter rippled through the chamber. 800 billion credits might fund a meaningful military, but 800 billion of Earth's primitive currency. It would barely cover the cost of a single Council defensive installation. Dr. Anderson's smile never wavered. Very well, Voxthal concluded, pushing aside his unease. Prepare the final assessment. Category 3 Martial Species Classification. Minimal security protocols required for diplomatic integration. We'll recommend standard containment procedures for their solar system. As the assembled experts began filing out, Dr. Anderson finally spoke. Admiral Voxthal, if I may. The Admiral turned, his scales shifting to a formal pattern. Yes, Doctor. Thank you for such a thorough assessment of our capabilities. I'm sure Earth's leadership will find your conclusions illuminating. Something in her tone made Voxthal's scales ripple with unease, but he dismissed it. After all, what could a Category 3 species possibly hide from the Council's advanced detection systems? As Anderson left the chamber, she tapped a simple message into what appeared to be a primitive mobile communication device. Assessment complete. Proceeding as planned. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that didn't officially exist, The message reached General Robert Nash. He read it once, smiled, and initiated the next phase of humanity's longest-running military deception. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Senate stretched upward in sweeping curves of iridescent metal, its uppermost tiers disappearing into artificial clouds. Ambassador Michael Hayes adjusted his simple black tie, a gesture that made several alien diplomats titter behind their various appendages. In their eyes, even his clothing marked him as primitive. No photonic weave, no quantum-shifted colors, not even basic chameleonic properties. The human delegation requests full military alliance status within the Galactic Defense Coalition, Hayes announced, his voice steady despite the growing murmurs of amusement around him. High Commissioner Zeltak's crystalline form sparkled as he leaned forward. Ambassador Hayes, surely you understand that such status is reserved for species capable of contributing meaningful military assets to our mutual defense. In the diplomatic gallery, Admiral James Sullivan watched the proceedings with carefully manufactured resignation. Decades of military intelligence work had trained him to maintain the perfect expression of a patient, but outmatched officer. We understand the requirements, Hayes continued. Earth is prepared to commit 30% of our active military forces to coalition defense. The chamber erupted in barely contained laughter. The Orcs, their chrome-plated battle armor gleaming under the chamber's lights, were particularly vocal. Supreme Commander Vexnar rose from his seat, his metallic exoskeleton whirring with each movement. 30% of nothing is still nothing, Ambassador, Vexnar announced, triggering another wave of amusement. Our preliminary analysis suggests your entire orbital defense network could be disabled by a single Arxian patrol vessel. Hayes nodded thoughtfully, sharing a brief glance with Sullivan. In a bunker 20,000 feet beneath the Rocky Mountains, that exact statement was being added to a growing list, titled Tactical Assumptions to Exploit. Perhaps, the Arxian continued, his voice dripping with manufactured kindness, we could offer Earth a more suitable arrangement. We would be happy to station a small defensive fleet in your system. For protection, of course. Sullivan tapped a brief message on what appeared to be an outdated tablet. Arxian confidence level. High. Proceeding with Protocol 7. That's most generous, Hayes replied, maintaining the carefully crafted image of diplomatic politeness masking disappointment. Though we hope the Council will at least consider our application for full status. High Commissioner Zeltak raised a crystalline appendage for silence. The Council recognizes Earth's desire to participate in galactic defense. However, given your current technological level, we believe a more appropriate designation would be Protected Developing Species. This would entitle you to defensive coverage from more advanced coalition members. In the gallery, Sullivan noticed an Arxian military attaché already drafting plans for fleet deployments in Earth's solar system. The aliens' arrogance was almost too perfect. They were practically writing humanity's playbook for them. Furthermore, Zeltak continued, we would be willing to establish a technology sharing program. Nothing too advanced, of course. We wouldn't want to overwhelm your infrastructure. Perhaps we could start with basic improvements to your chemical propulsion systems. Hayes allowed just the right amount of wounded pride to show through his diplomatic facade. We would be grateful for any assistance the Council deems appropriate. As the session concluded, various diplomatic representatives approached Hayes with what they imagined were consoling words and patronizing offers of basic technological assistance. Each offer, each condescending smile, was carefully logged and categorized by both Hayes and Sullivan. Later, in what appeared to be a primitive encrypted communication from the Earth Embassy, Hayes sent his daily report. Diplomatic phase proceeding as expected. Council's protective instincts fully engage. Arxian overconfidence at optimal levels. The response came from General Jennifer Morrison, commanding officer of Earth's actual defense fleet, currently phase shifted into quantum space around Mars. Understood. Maintaining defensive posture Delta. All advanced systems remain ghosted. Let them keep underestimating us. In the embassy's secure room, Hayes allowed himself a small smile as he watched alien ships moving through Earth's solar system, their sensors passing right through humanity's real military installations as if they weren't there. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations were about to learn an old human lesson. Appearances could be deceiving. Captain Zexlar of the Crimson Cascade stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodrender, studying the holographic display of Mars. His scaled lips pulled back in what passed for a smile among his species. The red planet's defenses were exactly as pathetic as the Council's assessment had suggested. Scans confirm minimal defensive installations, his sensor officer reported. One small garrison near Olympus Mons, standard atmospheric generators, and some mining equipment. No energy shields detected. No quantum barriers. Not even basic plasma arrays. The pirate fleet hung in the shadow of Phobos, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to what they believed were humanity's primitive sensors. 12 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a small city, prepared for what they assumed would be an easy raid. The humans don't even maintain a proper orbital defense network, Zexlar mocked, his translator converting his clicks into Galactic Common. Begin the approach. Standard Terra formation. Deep beneath the Martian surface, Lieutenant Thomas Wright sat in a control room that, according to official records, didn't exist. His fingers danced across what appeared to be an outdated touchscreen as he tracked each pirate vessel's quantum signature. The pirates' stealth systems might as well have been bright flares against the quantum detection grid. "Sir," his assistant, Sarah Martinez, reported, "the Crimson Cascade fleet is moving into attack position. Their weapons are powering up." Wright nodded, maintaining a calm demeanor that would have surprised the pirates above. "Time to show them why you don't judge a book by its cover. Initiate Guardian Protocol." The Bloodrender's sensors registered nothing unusual as they began their final approach. On the bridge, Zexlar was already calculating how much the human colony's resources would fetch on the black market. His crew had even prepared holding cells for the colonists they planned to capture. "Launch fighters," he commanded. "Disable their communications first. We don't want them calling for help. Not that anyone could arrive in time to save them." The first sign that something was wrong came when their quantum communications suddenly went dark. Zexlar didn't worry initially. Electronic warfare was common enough. But then his ship's artificial gravity flickered. "Status report," he barked. "Sir, something's wrong with our quantum drive." His engineer's panicked voice came through. "The containment field is... It's like it's being rewritten somehow." Below the Martian surface, Wright allowed himself a small smile as he executed the next phase. The quantum entanglement field, hidden in what appeared to be natural fluctuations in Mars's magnetic field, began its work. On the Bloodrender's bridge, alarms blared as reality itself seemed to twist. Zexlar watched in horror as his magnificent fleet began to fade from normal space. Not with the violence of destruction, but with the quiet certainty of a mathematical equation being resolved. "Full power to engines," he screamed. "Get us out of here." But there was nowhere to go. The pirates had unwittingly entered a quantum maze, their every attempt to escape simply drawing them deeper into humanity's true defensive network. Their advanced sensors, finally detecting the energy signatures around them, registered power levels that shouldn't have been possible for a primitive species. "Send a distress signal," Zexlar commanded, real fear in his voice for the first time. "Tell the Council. Tell them." His words were cut off as the entire fleet phased out of normal space. In the command center, Wright sent the confirmation code. "Package secured. 0 casualties. 0 debris." The response came from Earth Command. "Acknowledged. Prisoners to be transferred to Quantum Detention Facility Vita. Maintain emissions blackout." Hours later, when the Council would inevitably investigate the disappeared pirate fleet, they would find nothing. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no signs of battle. Just the quiet Martian colony going about its business, its primitive defenses seemingly undisturbed. In his underground command center, Wright filed his official report, carefully worded to maintain humanity's deception. Minor security incident. Situation resolved. No council assistance required. The galaxy would learn soon enough about humanity's true capabilities. But not today. Today, the masquerade would continue. Council investigator Raxley's crystalline form shimmered with frustration as his quantum scanner showed. Yet again, absolutely nothing. The Martian landscape stretched before him, red dust swirling around the landing struts of his advanced survey ship, but the readings made no sense. Impossible, he muttered, his crystalline fragments clicking together in agitation. A fleet doesn't simply vanish. Colonel Sarah Matthews stood nearby, her standard-issue United Mars Defense uniform, looking almost deliberately outdated compared to Raxley's advanced environmental suit. She sipped from a steaming cup of coffee, maintaining the carefully practiced look of helpful confusion that human military officers had perfected over the past months. Maybe they never came to Mars at all, she suggested, her tone helpful but not too helpful. Pirates are known for sending false flight plans. Raxley's sensor arrays rotated in irritation. We tracked them to this exact location. 12 warships, Captain Zexelar's entire fleet. They were here, and then. He gestured at the empty Martian sky with a crystalline appendage. The investigation team spread out across the Martian surface, their advanced detection equipment humming and pulsing as they searched for any trace of the missing pirates. Each member of the team represented the finest forensic experts from different council races, equipped with technology that could detect the quantum signature of a single atom. They found nothing. Colonel Matthews, Raxley began, his translator struggling to convey his mounting frustration. Your garrison must have observed something. The Crimson Cascade fleet wasn't exactly subtle. Matthews checked her outdated datapad with exaggerated thoroughness. Our logs show a minor anomaly in the upper atmosphere around that time. We assumed it was a solar wind fluctuation. She shrugged apologetically. Our sensors are pretty basic by your standards. Behind his crystalline facade, Raxley fought the urge to scream. The human's apparent incompetence was becoming almost suspicious in its consistency. Every answer was just helpful enough to be polite, but vague enough to be useless. Ma'am, one of his junior investigators called out, his tentacles waving excitedly. I'm detecting traces of quantum distortion in this sector. Finally, Raxley thought. A breakthrough. But as the team rushed to the location, their readings once again turned up empty. Matthews casually mentioned that they sometimes got strange readings near their primitive atmospheric processors, and would they like some more coffee? During their lunch break in the colony's main dome, Matthews engaged in what humans called small talk, asking about council technology, with what seemed like genuine curiosity. Every question somehow made them feel simultaneously superior and oddly uncomfortable. It must be amazing, she mused, having ships that can detect anything within a light year. Our best sensors can barely track objects in our own orbit without losing them. Her smile was perfectly innocent. Later that evening, as the investigation team prepared to leave, Raxley made one final sweep of the area. His sensors picked up a brief energy spike that, for just a moment, seemed to suggest technology far beyond humanity's reported capabilities. But when he turned to look at Matthews, her expression of mild interest was so perfectly crafted that he began to doubt his own readings. "You'll let us know if you find anything?" she asked, managing to sound both eager and completely unconcerned. In orbit, aboard his survey vessel, Raxley compiled his report. Investigation inconclusive. No evidence of military engagement. Recommend continued monitoring of sector, but primary focus should shift to other potential locations. As the council ship departed, Matthews entered her own command center, hidden beneath 2 miles of Martian rock. The primitive atmospheric processors, which had been subtly scrambling the investigation team's sensors for days, shifted back to their normal operation patterns. "They're gone," she reported through a quantum-encrypted channel that the Council's best sensors would have registered as background radiation. Investigation team bought the cover story. Quantum containment of Crimson Cascade fleet remains stable. The response from Earth Command was brief. Excellent work. Maintain deception protocols. Phase 3 begins tomorrow. Matthew smiled, wondering how long it would take the Council to realize that humanity's greatest weapons had always been patience and subterfuge. For now, though, she had another routine atmospheric maintenance check to fake and more outdated equipment to conspicuously mishandle. Cathor's tentacles twitched nervously as he studied the holographic display in the Council's Advanced Threat Assessment Division. The Reaction analyst had spent 3 decades studying emerging military powers, but something about these humans wasn't adding up. "Director Cooper," he called out, his translator working overtime to catch the stress harmonics in his voice. "Could you explain again why your lunar mining operation requires such precise quantum alignment?" Emily Cooper, Earth's liaison to the Council's military division, looked up from her outdated tablet with practiced nonchalance. "Oh, that's just for stability monitoring. Lunar dust plays havoc with our primitive sensors." She smiled apologetically. "We have to compensate with redundant systems." Cathor's primary eyes narrowed while his secondary set tracked the latest sensor data. Another criminal fleet had vanished near Jupiter's orbit, the third such disappearance this month. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. "Show me the energy readings from Saturn's rings again," he commanded his system. The display shifted, revealing spikes of power that defied conventional physics. Each spike lasted precisely 3.47 milliseconds before vanishing, almost as if. "Fascinating data," Cooper commented, glancing at the display. "Solar wind can create such interesting phenomena, don't you think?" Cathor's tentacles curled in frustration. Every investigation into human space led to the same dead ends. Primitive technology that somehow produced quantum-level interference. Basic defense platforms that occasionally displayed energy signatures matching theoretical maximum yields. Surveillance probes that malfunctioned in mathematically impossible ways. "What did your report say about the asteroid mining accident last week?" he asked, watching Cooper's reaction carefully. "Standard equipment failure," she replied, her response coming just quickly enough to seem natural. "Our drilling platforms still use nuclear fission. So inefficient compared to your quantum drives." She sighed with exactly the right amount of envy. But Cathor had seen something in that accident report. The energy dispersion pattern matched theoretical models for quantum phase shifting. Technology that humanity shouldn't even know existed, let alone possess. In the privacy of his quarters that evening, Cathor compiled his findings. The disappearances formed a perfect defensive perimeter around Earth's solar system. The energy spikes followed patterns too precise to be natural. And then there were the transmissions, quantum ghost signals that his most advanced detection systems barely registered. "Computer, overlay all anomalous readings from the past 6 months," he commanded. The resulting pattern made his tentacles go rigid with shock. Hidden beneath layers of apparent technical incompetence was a web of energy signatures that suggested capabilities far beyond Category 3 classification. Each human accident and malfunction served to mask something larger, something that spoke of military technology that should have been impossible for their civilization. His communicator chimed. Another alert from the Jupiter sector. A notorious smuggler fleet had vanished without trace. The official report from Earth's Defense Command cited routine meteor activity. Cathor accessed the classified files from humanity's first contact. Their rapid technological advancement from primitive combustion engines to basic spaceflight had been remarkable, but something about the timeline nagged at him. It was almost too perfect, too predictable. "Computer, calculate probability of technological development pattern matching known evolutionary models." The answer made him knock over his desk terminal. 0.1% probability of natural progression. Pattern suggests artificial constraint of technological display. Before he could process this revelation, his screen lit up with a priority message from Director Cooper. "Noticed you've been working late analyzing our defense reports. Would you like to visit Earth for a first-hand tour of our facilities? We'd love to show you our new Chemical Propulsion Research Center. The invitation was perfectly worded, completely innocent, and somehow the most terrifying message Cathor had ever received. Because now he understood. Humanity wasn't trying to hide their mistakes. They were deliberately revealing just enough to make the Council think they were seeing everything. In the depths of his analysis chamber, Cathor began composing a classified report titled, Concerning Patterns in Human Military Development, Classification Level Ultra Black. He had a growing suspicion that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't any piece of technology. It was their ability to make everyone underestimate them. The Grand Council chamber erupted into chaos as Supreme Commander Vexnar's hologram flickered with static. His chrome-plated battle armor, usually pristine, showed signs of quantum scarring. "The training fleet, it's gone," he reported, his metallic voice trembling. 47 warships, our most advanced vessels, just vanished near Jupiter's orbit. High Commissioner Zeltak's crystalline form pulsed with alarmed colors. "Impossible. Those ships carried our latest quantum shielding. Nothing cold." Ambassador Hayes requests to address the Council, the Chamber's AI announced, interrupting the growing panic. All eyes turned to the human representative as he stood, straightening his simple black tie with deliberate calmness. Major William Turner stood beside him, carrying what appeared to be an obsolete data tablet. "Honorable Council members," Hayes began, his voice carrying easily through the charged atmosphere. "I believe we can shed some light on the current situation." Vexnar's hologram crackled with rage. "You? What could your primitive species possibly?" "Major Turner, if you would." Hayes gestured to his companion. Turner tapped his tablet, and the chamber's holographic display system suddenly came alive with imagery that should have been impossible for human technology to generate. The Council members watched in stunned silence as a real-time feed showed the missing Arxian fleet, perfectly intact but completely immobilized within a shimmering field of quantum energy. "Your ships are safe," Hayes assured them, his diplomatic mask finally dropping to reveal a hint of steel beneath. "Though I must say, Supreme Commander, launching a surprise attack fleet toward Earth under the guise of a training exercise was rather unsporting." The chamber erupted again, but this time in a cacophony of questions and accusations. Zeltak's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained emotion. "That's a Category 7 quantum containment field," one of the Council's technical experts exclaimed. "The energy requirements alone would. You couldn't possibly." "Couldn't we?" Hayes smiled. "Perhaps it's time we had an honest conversation about Earth's actual capabilities." The holographic display shifted again, showing layers of defensive systems throughout the solar system that had been completely invisible to the Council's most advanced sensors. Quantum phase arrays hidden in the asteroid belt. Temporal disruption grids disguised as natural phenomena in planetary magnetic fields. A defense network that extended through multiple dimensions of spacetime. "As we speak," Turner added, his voice carrying the weight of command, "our Perseus protocol is documenting every weapon in your fleet being targeted by defense systems you never knew existed. This is not a threat, merely a demonstration of transparency." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Vexnar's hologram showed him slumping in his command chair, the arrogance of centuries crumbling in minutes. "But your primitive nuclear weapons," someone protested weakly. "Your chemical rockets are part of what we call the Sheffield Doctrine," Hayes explained, named after the admiral who first proposed that the best defense isn't just a good offense, it's making sure no one knows the true extent of your capabilities until it's absolutely necessary. The display showed more footage. The Crimson Cascade pirates, safely contained in a quantum prison. Criminal fleets that had vanished near Earth, all accounted for and neutralized without a single casualty. Earth's true military installations, hidden beneath layers of quantum deception. "We could have revealed this sooner," Hayes continued, his tone gentler now. "But humanity learned long ago that displaying advanced military power tends to provoke conflict rather than prevent it. We chose a different path." High Commissioner Zeltak finally found his voice. How long have you been capable of this level of technology? Hayes shared a knowing look with Turner before responding. Commissioner, did you never wonder why our technological development followed such a predictable pattern? Why each advancement seemed to fit so perfectly into your models of primitive species evolution? The implications hit the council members like a physical blow. They hadn't been watching humanity develop toward advanced technology. They had been watching a carefully crafted performance, designed to keep Earth's true capabilities hidden until they were needed. Now then, Hayes concluded, straightening his tie once more, shall we discuss the terms for releasing the Arxian fleet, and perhaps a reconsideration of Earth's military classification? Colonel Robert Nash stood before the Council's emergency session, his standard-issue uniform a stark contrast to the advanced environmental suits and battle armor surrounding him. The chamber's quantum displays showed real-time footage of Earth's true defense network coming online, each revelation more staggering than the last. The quantum phase generators you see here, Nash explained, gesturing to a complex array hidden within Mercury's magnetic field, can render our entire fleet invisible not just to sensors, but to reality itself. We exist in what we call quantum superposition, simultaneously present and absent from normal spacetime. High Commander Voxthal, his scales now a mottled pattern of shock and disbelief, leaned forward. But the energy requirements, it should be impossible. Impossible by conventional means, yes. Nash nodded to Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, who activated another display. This is what we call the Edison matrix, a zero-point energy harvesting system that taps into the quantum foam of space itself. Those primitive nuclear reactors you detected, merely the surface cooling systems for technology that operates on a completely different level of physics. The chamber erupted in murmurs as the display showed Earth's defense grid extending through 11 dimensions of spacetime. What the Council had dismissed as a primitive planetary defense system was revealed to be merely the visible surface of a vastly more complex network. Your stealth systems, Nash continued, operate on principles of electromagnetic and quantum absorption. Ours alter the fundamental fabric of reality within designated spaces, those solar wind anomalies your sensors detected. Actually quantum displacement fields capable of moving entire fleets through dimensional space. Ambassador Hayes stepped forward, his diplomatic demeanor now tempered with unmistakable authority. When humanity first achieved quantum tunneling technology, we faced a choice. We could display our power openly, as most species do, or we could learn from our own history. The holographic display shifted to show historical footage from Earth's past conflicts. Every time a nation displayed overwhelming military superiority, Hayes explained, it led to arms races, escalation, and eventually conflict. We chose a different path. Nash took over again, bringing up technical specifications that made several council scientists gasp. The Sheffield Doctrine wasn't just about hiding our capabilities. It was about developing technology that could end conflicts before they began. Our antimatter arsenals aren't weapons of mass destruction. They're tools of mass preservation, capable of containing and neutralizing threats without casualties. The primitive chemical rockets, a council member asked weakly. Necessary camouflage, Martinez explained. Our actual propulsion systems operate by folding spacetime itself. Those rockets make excellent cover for the quantum wake signatures we couldn't completely hide. The display showed more of Earth's hidden capabilities, AI systems that operated beyond conventional spacetime, predicting and countering threats before they materialized. Defense platforms that could redirect the fundamental forces of the universe, ships that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Everything you saw, Nash said quietly, every primitive technology, every limited capability, was carefully calculated to present exactly the image we wanted you to see. Not out of malice, but out of a deep understanding of how military power shapes relationships between species. Hayes stepped forward again. Humanity learned long ago that the most effective defense isn't about showing strength. It's about maintaining peace through the perfect balance of capability and restraint. The Crimson Cascade Pirates, contained and rehabilitating. The Arxian fleet, safely held without a single casualty. The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. Earth hadn't just hidden its military capabilities. It had developed an entirely new philosophy of defensive power, one focused on prevention and containment rather than destruction. "We reveal this now," Nash concluded, "not as a threat, but as an invitation. Humanity stands ready to share not just our technology, but our understanding of how to use it wisely. After all, the greatest power isn't in the weapons we create, but in knowing when not to use them." The council members watched in stunned silence as one final display activated, showing the true extent of Earth's defensive network, a masterpiece of engineering and restraint that had been hiding in plain sight all along. 3 months after Earth's revelation, the Galactic Council chamber had been transformed. Where once crystalline spires had dominated the architecture, new quantum phase displays showed the real-time status of a revolutionized galactic defense network. At its heart, General Jennifer Morrison stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. "The Guardian Protocol isn't just about military power," Morrison explained, her uniform now bearing the newly created insignia of Earth's Special Defense Command. "It's about understanding that true strength lies in the ability to end conflicts before they begin." High Commissioner Zeltak, whose crystalline form now shimmered with patterns of respect rather than condescension, gestured toward the display showing the reformed Crimson Cascade Pirates. The once notorious raiders now served as part of an interspecies security force, their skills redirected toward protection rather than theft. "Your rehabilitation programs defy conventional wisdom," Zeltak admitted. "We always assumed maximum security containment was the only answer." Morrison smiled. "Sometimes the best way to neutralize an enemy is to turn them into an ally. Our quantum containment systems don't just hold prisoners. They offer chances for reformation." The display shifted to show the Arxian fleet, now fully integrated into the new defensive network. Supreme Commander Vexnar, his chrome-plated battle armor polished to a shine, stood proudly beside his human counterparts. "We were so focused on displaying our power," Vexnar reflected, his metallic voice carrying a new note of humility, "that we never considered the strength in hiding it. The humans taught us that sometimes the greatest show of force is choosing not to show force at all." Ambassador Hayes stepped forward, still wearing his simple black tie. "The Sheffield Doctrine has been renamed," he announced. "The Council has ratified the Terra Protocol, a new approach to galactic security based on prevention, rehabilitation, and strategic restraint." The chamber's displays showed the extent of the changes. Earth's quantum phase technology had been adapted to create invisible defense networks around peaceful worlds. Temporal containment fields protected trade routes without displaying obvious military presence. AI systems operating in multiple dimensions predicted and prevented conflicts before they could escalate. "But perhaps most importantly," Morrison continued, "we've established the Guardian Academy." The display showed a massive station orbiting Jupiter, where representatives from every council race trained in Earth's philosophy of hidden strength and measured response. "The first graduating class," Hayes added with pride, "includes former pirates, reformed raiders, and even a few council skeptics who once dismissed us as primitive." His gentle smile carried a hint of the same quiet confidence that had hidden humanity's true nature for so long. Cathor, the analyst who had first suspected Earth's deception, now served as the Academy's chief instructor in strategic assessment. "The humans taught us to look beyond the obvious," he explained, his tentacles moving in patterns of enlightenment. "True power isn't about what you show. It's about what you choose to hide, when you choose to reveal it, and why." The chamber's mood was contemplative as Morrison concluded the session. "Earth's classification has been updated," she announced, "but not to any existing category. The Council has created a new designation, Guardian Species, not because we're the strongest, but because we understood something crucial early in our development. She paused, looking out at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. We learned that the most powerful weapon isn't a quantum cannon or a temporal disruptor. It's the wisdom to know when not to use them, the strength to hold back when you could strike, and the patience to wait until showing power serves peace rather than pride. As the session ended, Hayes stood with Vexnar and Zeltak, watching ships of all species moving peacefully through the quantum-protected lanes around Earth. "You know," Hayes mused, straightening his tie one last time, "for all our advanced technology, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't developing these weapons." "Oh." Zeltak's crystalline form sparkled with curiosity. "No," Hayes smiled. "It was learning when to keep them hidden, and why to reveal them only in service of peace." Above them, Earth's defense network hummed quietly, invisible to normal space but ever-present, a testament not to humanity's power to destroy, but to their wisdom in choosing protection over pride, prevention over punishment, and peace over glory.